of you who are new, my name is Franceska, simply Fran, whatever you want to call me, and I'm a first year medic at the University of Oxford.
Okay.
And as you guys can tell from the title of this video, today we're going to be speaking about my experiences of second term at the University of Oxford. Today's the 21st of April and we're a couple of days away from starting our final term of first year. And I thought I'd just sit down and kind of speak to you guys about my experiences, how I've been coping with my second term. And I know I haven't filmed a first term video on my channel, but I'm hoping that this video will kind of cover the general gist of what it's like to be a student, what it's like to be a medic at Oxford. And if you guys want a more detailed and in-depth video, please let me know in the comment section down below. And guys, I know I look like I'm about to go out, like I've got my jewelry and everything, but don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. This quarantine, don't let it deceive you, sis. I'm still in my pajama bottoms.
I never expected it.
Do not let it deceive you. I was just so tired of looking like a potato every single day, so I thought, you know, let me switch it up. Before we get into this video, a few disclaimers. You guys know I love my disclaimers. Number one, these experiences are my own experiences and I can't speak on the behalf of any other student at the University of Oxford or at university in general. The whole aim of this video is to kind of just give you a student's perspective of what life is like, and I'm speaking from the stance of a young black female at the University of Oxford, coming from a state school background where the admissions rate into university, the academics was Oxbridge, where kind of background. So do not think that my experiences are a reflection of everyone's at the university. In fact, no two experiences are the same. And also, before I move on, I'm gonna split this video into two parts. I've already anticipated that it's gonna be long. It's gonna be long, so get comfy. But yeah, so this first part, as you can tell from the title, is gonna be more orientated towards my academic life. So how have my studies been? How has the course changed? The exams I had at the start of term, how I've been coping with life, how I've been coping with the academia and the effect that this has had on my physical and mental well-being. And in the second part of the video is more focused on the social aspect of my life. So I'll be talking about my social life, my church life, going to church, fellowshipping with other Christians back at home was an integral part of my life. So I really wanted to continue that at university. I'm going to be speaking about societies, friendships, sport, because sport is a major element of my life. Literally this term, I averaged say 5 training sessions a week. It was pretty intense. And yeah, I'll speak more about that in the second video. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. So, first things first. What's the general structure of an Oxford term like? At Oxford, they have 8-week terms, which are mad. They're mad. Just take them, they're mad.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
8-week terms are mad because we have to complete the same amount of work, or sometimes even more, than other universities which tend to have longer terms of 12 to 13 weeks. So it means that on top of the already intense academia at Oxford, we further have a more intense workload and schedule because everything is just so much more compacted. But I guess the silver lining and the positive aspect of that is that we do have these really extensive holidays of say 5 to 6 weeks, which is nice because some of my friends at other universities tend to have short holidays, and it does mean that you have time to truly get back into the swing of things, recuperate, you know, regenerate, catch up on all those hours of sleep that you've been missing whilst you've been at university, spend time with family, etc. So there's pros and there's also cons. So my holidays were actually cut short because at the end of our first term of university, I actually stayed for an extra 2 weeks to help out with interviews at my college and be an interview host. And I actually met some of you guys who watch my channel at interviews, being interviewed for the next academic year. So shout out to anyone that I met. It was so nice to see you guys. So I had 2 weeks less holiday than everyone else because of that, but I also had to come back a week earlier, minus 1 week. Yeah, we'll talk about the whole number week system later. But yeah, I also had to come back a week earlier because of netball pre-season training. And for those of you who don't know, I do university level netball, so it can be quite intense. So we came back a few days early so that we could get back into the swing of fitness, because the holidays preceding pre-season training were the Christmas holidays. And we all know what that means. We all know what that means. Loads of eating, not enough sleeping, and not enough exercise. But yeah, pre-season training was definitely needed. It went on for about 4 days, and in total there was like 6 training sessions at various times of the day. By this point, not many students had actually started to move back into college because it was -1 week. So college actually was quite quiet, and at some points I actually felt quite lonely because I was like the only person on my staircase. But anyway, 0th week, people started moving in, friends started moving in. You haven't seen these friends in 6-7 weeks, and it was just nice to see everyone again. And 0th week is the week before term starts. It's the week for people to kind of get back to Oxford, settle back into life before, you know, lectures and tutorials start. But it's also the week of our exams, our mock exams. And at Oxford, because they're bougie, they call them collections. And they're just a series of mock exams which are there to kind of prepare you for your end of year exams and kind of like check your progress. And to be fair, although I did not want to sit them, and I'm telling you with my whole heart, I did not want to sit these exams, they were necessary, because the last actual kind of exams that I sat were in June, like my last A-levels in year 13, and June to January, don't count my maths, but that's a whole 6-7 months, a long time. Quick maths. So they were needed to get me used to the exam style, I guess, and being tested under exam conditions. But yeah, these collections were stressful because I did not know what to expect. They were my first exams at Oxford. I also had a lot of anxiety revolving around them because they were my first kind of official show of my my level, my performance, where I was at and what I was capable of. So I really overstressed for these collections. But anyway, 0th week, people started moving in. There was loads of socializing, loads of events, literally a group of my closest friends at Brasenose College. I remember us all just like being together like all the time, or as much as possible, because we did still have exams. So like we were still studying, but when it was dinner time, when it was lunchtime, I just remember us kind of going into my friend's room and just chilling, catching up, watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, talking, watching, I think Love Island was going on at the time, Love Island together, playing cards, and it was just so cute. Our exams come round, and these exams collections are actually set by your individual colleges. So my exams at Brasenose were different to my friends' exams, say at St. Anne's or say at Christchurch. They're completely different, but the whole point of them is to kind of check your progress. So at Brasenose we had 2 main papers, and they were 5 essay questions based on the various modules that we'd been studying on in the previous term, and they were okay actually. Although I remember being super stressed about them, I remember just speaking to the older years, speaking to the other medics at Brasenose, exchanging notes, you know, exchanging knowledge, and I just remember like that easing the anxiety and nerves that I had. And I actually, like, I got my results back the following week. In those papers, I actually did a lot better than I expected. Like, I passed all of them, and I actually got like a high 2-1, low first equivalent. In the majority of my essays, there was one essay that I actually failed, but after these collections, we had like post-collection meetings with each of our tutors. Our main tutor is a physiology and pharmacology specialist, and I just remember sitting with him, discussing my results, discussing my progress, him asking whether these were what I expected or what I didn't expect, and us just having a genuine chat about how I could improve my experience at Oxford and how I could like push myself to do better, especially in the essay that I failed. Just to say, Oxford tutors at university aren't there to kind of be the teachers that you're used to, say year 12 or year 13, who are constantly chasing you up for your homework. They're genuinely there for you to go to them if you have any questions, if you have any problems, if you're not understanding anything, rather than for them to come to you and constantly like be nagging at you. So I guess in a sense, like, you take that step up in terms of independency and maturity when you get to university. Yeah. So week 0 is finished, everybody is celebrating, everybody is happy, woohoo, we finished collections. But little did I know, actually I did know, why am I acting like I didn't know? All the medics in first year would have these set of exams on Monday. No! Extra exams set by the department, and these are called formatives, basically mock exams of the MCQ, so multiple choice question paper, assessing your holistic and broad understanding of the course at hand. And it's a bit of a sticky one because I just remember going through the questions and not knowing half the answers. Yeah. So my formative multiple choice papers flopped, but not as bad as I anticipated. Just looking back now, like, my tutors were a real help for me, because although like I didn't do as well as I should have done, they were still pushing me. So although like I'd failed some of my papers and some of my essays, I didn't feel like I was a failure, if that made sense. They still managed to give me the feedback in an encouraging way, which is amazing. It really helped in kind of reconstructing my way of revising, because over the vacation, the way I approached revising the whole of first term's content was going through the syllabus that they gave us point by point and looking at every single minor thing and trying to make notes on every single thing. With that kind of method, I only managed to get through like 30% of the syllabus for first term. And that was just the wrong approach, and as a result there were huge gaps in my knowledge. Like although like my knowledge was so in depth and so in detail, it wasn't broad enough, and I hadn't covered enough of the syllabus for me to do as well as I should have done in these multiple choice questions. So speaking to my tutors made me realise that the best way of approaching revision is to go through it lecture by lecture, because the lectures are more synoptic and they tend to tie in different topics from different parts of the syllabus, as opposed to using my syllabus as a strict guideline of how I should revise. So yeah, that was 0th week and collections. So next I'm just going to talk about the course and how it changed in comparison to first term. So the preclinical course at the University of Oxford is basically split into 3 main modules. The first one is pharmacology and physiology, looking at biological processes in the body, how they work and how drugs affect them. The second one is biochemistry and medical genetics, and the last unit is organization of the body, and this kind of focuses on embryology and also anatomy, so what the body looks like essentially. In first term, we kind of just focused on those 3 units, and we'd have supplementary practical classes to accompany them. We'd have practicals called DR, demonstration rooms, but we usually call them dissection rooms, because essentially you go in there and you have pro sections, the piece of anatomy that you're studying. You'd have demonstrators who are usually junior doctors training in surgical specialities, who are there to kind of guide you through the anatomy, ask you questions, prompt you and teach you essentially. So in second term we continued these units. We also had an additional unit called medical genetics, which kind of focuses on the role of medicine in society and how its role has developed over time. It kind of put medicine into perspective, so that was kind of new. And now having completed second term and looking back, second term I found a lot easier. I don't know if that's because I've grown to kind of adapt to life at Oxford, but second term was a lot calmer. Like I got into my swing of things pretty quickly. I started enjoying lectures a lot more. Guys, when I tell you in first term, some of the lectures I'd just turn up and be like, what's going on? Like I'd leave the lectures more confused than when I walked in. Compared to second term, where I was a lot more engaged in the content, I enjoyed it and understood it a lot more, and it generally just made my experience a lot better. And looking back, the reasons I can put it down to is the fact that first term, like the content was very sporadic. It was a bit all over the place. They were trying to teach us the basics and none of it was kind of tying together. Whereas in second term, it was more conceptual. We had more compact series of lectures. So for physiology and pharmacology, the first thing we learned about was the heart, and all the lectures following that were focused on the heart. So the lectures followed on from one another. So in a sense, it felt more consistent, it felt more engaging. So yeah, I enjoyed second term lectures a lot more and practical classes. Right guys, I'm back. I just needed some water, man. My throat was dry. I counted that this term we had 58 lectures, which is an average of 1.5 lectures a day. If we're not in a lecture, we're in a seminar class or we're in practical class, which can range from 2 hours to 5 hours, or we're in a tutorial. This term we had 1 biochem seminar and 1 pharmacology seminar. We had 5 statistics workshops. So another thing I didn't mention before is that we actually started medical statistics, and we were given these kind of workbooks to work through. Basically, the statistics that we learned were kind of based on what you do in A-level maths. And if you don't do A-level maths but still want to do medicine at Oxford, don't be discouraged, because I have a friend who didn't do maths at A-level and she's perfectly fine. They speak you through everything, and there are special classes for those who either want to brush up on their stats or who didn't do it for A-level. So we had weekly histology and DR classes, the ones that I was talking about before. So histology is basically the study of cells, and it involves a lot of looking down at microscopes. Microscopes will become your best friends. We have these lab books that they give us at the start of term, and essentially they have all the work set out, so all like the exercise questions and diagrams that they want you to draw set out for the whole of term. And yeah, I just have so many fond memories of just drawing cells, macrophages, basophils. Make sure you bring your pencil to university. Make sure you bring a pencil and a sharpener, because you're going to be doing a lot of drawing. We also had 5 physiology experiments ranging from doing ECGs on each other to taking each other's blood pressure, which was really cool and fun. But these practicals are super long and they usually take up your whole morning, but they're honestly so fun, and you do have demonstrators who are always there to help you and kind of talk you through what you're supposed to be doing. So more detail about what we actually studied in second term. In pharmacology and physiology, we focused on the heart. It's anatomy, so it's morphology, and we looked at the cardiovascular system. It's physiology, so looking at the heart as a pump, hemodynamics, looking at the properties of blood vessels. And after this series of lectures on the cardiovascular system, we then looked at the respiratory system. So we looked at the lungs, again, we looked at its anatomy, and then we looked at its physiology. Guys, when I tell you there's more to breathing than meets the eye, I'm not lying. Like, we had a whole series, 6 lectures on breathing. And in organization of the body, which is very much focused on anatomy and embryology, we looked at the endocrine system, which is all to do with hormones. We also looked at the embryology of the heart, so how the heart develops, you know, in the body. And in biochemistry, we started metabolism. For any A-level students doing biology and looking at biochemistry, so looking at glycolysis, Krebs cycle, guys, think of that but on steroids. Tell me why there's about 17 reactions just in glycolysis. The general consensus is that students, especially medics, don't like metabolism, but the lectures we had this term were so amazing in making up for the fact that metabolism is a very hefty and very memory focused kind of unit. So that was like the details regarding what we actually studied for anyone interested. So in conjunction to our lectures and our practical classes, we had tutorials. So tutorials are basically 1-to-1, 2-to-1, or even 3-to-1 with professional world-leading academics in that field who are called your tutors. And we have a tutor who specializes in pharmacology, we have a tutor who specializes in biochemistry, and we have a tutor who specializes in anatomy. You really get this really helpful and focused advice and help from these world-leading academics in their field, and it's incredible. So I'd have 1 to 2 tutorials a week and 1 to 2 essays a week, and these were usually based off the work we were doing in lectures. So my tutors were all very different. One of my tutors, for this particular tutor, we did the essay before his tutorial, and the tutorial was spent kind of going over the essay, feedback, etc. And for my other tutor, we'd submit handwritten essays as opposed to the other tutors where we submitted the essays online. And for him, he'd also get us to write the essays afterwards. Interestingly enough, this tutor actually preferred for us not to bring anything into his tutorials, so not to bring notes, not to bring our laptops. He wanted to focus on the intellectual discussion at hand. So for the longest period of time, these tutorials, like, I did not like going to them because they reminded me of an interview, like going in with absolutely nothing, expected to speak for the whole thing, and they were pretty daunting. For the majority of Michaelmas, which is first term, I did not enjoy these tutorials. I found them challenging. I found they made me feel anxious and stupid. I felt I left feeling stupid, and it really like impacted negatively on my mental health and my general perspective and viewing of the course, compared to my other tutorials where I'd be able to bring notes in, I'd be able to bring my laptop in, so if the tutor asked a question to the students, I could like look through my notes. Looking back now, this form of tutorial where I'm mainly focusing on what I can actively recall is a lot better for the whole learning process, because it means that I'm not relying on my resources, I'm not relying on my notes, but I'm literally forcing myself to remember these concepts. Looking back now, those tutorials are beneficial to me, but I guess at the time it didn't feel like that. So this kind of feeds into what I'm going to speak about next, which is my mental health and my well-being during second term. I guess compared to first term, it was a lot better. I'd kind of grown to get used to the fast-paced life at Oxford, but at the same time, I still had this kind of underlying imposter syndrome, especially because the group of medics I have, my college Brasenose, are incredibly gifted. Without doubt, these people are the most amazing people. Shout out if you're watching. Always willing to help, always there for a chat if you need one. But they're They're also some of the smartest people you'll ever meet, and just the whole situation with my tutorials, how I left feeling like I hadn't contributed to the tutorials, how I left tutorials feeling like everything I said was completely stupid. I guess this just kind of made me feel like how the heck did I get in, that I didn't belong, that I was an imposter, like sooner or later people will find out that I don't belong in this place, that I'm just too dumb, that I just can't hack being an Oxford medic. And for the longest period of time, this negatively impacted my studies. It meant that I wasn't enjoying the course for what it was. Instead, I was doing things for the sake of doing things. I was doing essays because I kind of had to. I was doing things because I had to, not because I wanted to. Essay crises, whatever the plural is. I had my fair share during Hillary term. I'm just thinking back to when I called my friend. I was going through the roughest period. I had an essay due in 10 minutes. I was literally 500 words into the word count. There was no way that I could do it in time. And I was just so stressed, and I did not know what to do. I just remember calling my friend. Oh, shout out. You know who you are. Like, absolutely love you. And I just remember her calming me down over the phone, making me go outside for a little bit of a walk just to calm my nerves down, and recommending that I email my tutor explaining the situation and to kind of send him what I had, so he knew that I wasn't just slacking. And that's what I did. In the end, it all worked out. My tutor was super understanding about the whole situation. I submitted what I had at the time to him, and later on I submitted the completed version of the essay. And yeah, I'm so grateful of the people around me, the support system I have around me, the fact that tutors are just so receptive to helping us out, especially when we're feeling this low. I'm so grateful for the circle of medics that I was surrounded with in Brasenose, who were always so supportive and helpful. And looking back now, the second half of Hillary term was a whole lot better in terms of my mental health, in terms of me enjoying the course a lot more. And I guess what got me through was a kind of change in my mentality, in my attitude. What I was going through really got me to question what my true motivations were in terms of getting through med school, and whether these motivations were good enough to actually keep me going throughout med schools, through the hardships, through the highs and through the lows. And the whole experience just kind of got me to be a lot kinder to myself in terms of accepting the fact that it's okay not to be okay. Something important that I forgot to mention in the video was that what got me through was also accepting the fact that it was okay not to be the best, as I may have been used to in secondary school. And actually, it's okay to have loads of people who are a lot better than me. It just meant that I had a lot of people to learn from and kind of grow. And accepting that there are certain times where you can no longer kind of help yourself, and it's okay to reach out and ask for help. And one of the pieces of advice I was actually given was that I should learn how to kind of prioritize things, because at the time I was doing the most. Sis, I was overcommitting to everything. I was doing netball, I was going to ACS events regularly, I was doing Bible studies, which were like twice a week, I was doing gospel choir, I was doing the most, and I just didn't have time for myself. I just remember reaching out to one of the admins for the gospel choir and explaining like my situation in terms of not being able to balance everything, and they were just so kind and receptive. In Hillary term, I actually didn't attend any gospel choir rehearsals solely because I just could not balance it with everything I was doing. And I realized that the freeing up of that time really helped in like how I was feeling in terms of my mental health. And yeah, I just became a queen at prioritizing things, and I'm just so proud of myself for kind of preventing myself from having, you know, unnecessary essay crises. So guys, I think we've reached the end of my video. I will be filming a part 2 which will focus on the social aspect of my time at Oxford. So, you know, social life, church, diversity, what it's like to be a black female at the University of Oxford, societies, friendships, sports. If you have any questions regarding anything, even things I've spoken about today, put it in the description below and I'll talk about them in my next video. I really hope you guys enjoy this video. And yeah, for now, I'm gonna sip my water and see you guys in the next video. Bye!